Hello friends, it's Lisa and welcome to my May bullet journal setup. I'm really excited about this month's theme. I wanted to do kind of an 80s inspired theme simply because Stranger Things season 4 is coming out in May, or the first part of it is coming out in May. And if you do not know, I absolutely love Stranger Things. It is my favorite show, probably of all time. That's a bold statement, but I really just love it so much. It brings me so much joy. It also stresses me out and makes me sob, but I do find a comfort in the characters and everything. It's just my favorite thing ever. So I really wanted to do a theme about Stranger Things, but not anything that was too spot on. I didn't want it to be like a Stranger Things theme. I wanted it to be a more general 80s theme. So first, I definitely want to say that I got some inspiration from Amanda Rach Lee, the queen of bullet journaling. I feel like I mention her in almost every journal with me video I do, but she did an 80s theme a couple years ago, so I definitely took a couple of things from her video that I thought was really cool. I did try to make it my own, but I definitely wanted to shout her out because I did use and reference her 80s theme quite a bit throughout these spreads. So when thinking of different 80s things, I was definitely inspired a lot by the kind of geometric patterns and colorful patterns that were very popular in the 80s. I originally was even thinking of doing the pattern that's kind of on Eleven's romper in season 3, but I kind of like the idea of doing just a more general 80s kind of print pattern kind of thing. I went onto Pinterest and just searched 80s pattern or whatever into the search bar and just kind of took a lot of different things from the different patterns that popped up, different things that I liked, and kind of made this own pattern of my own. I also wanted to do a very colorful and bright color palette for this theme because when you look up these patterns online, they're very bright and very colorful. So I decided to use a purple, a pink, this kind of orangey yellow, and this minty green. It's kind of a greeny blue. If you want to know what exact shades and markers I'm using, I will have them in the description below. And yeah, I'm just drawing a lot of different shapes, squares, circles, triangles, as well as that squiggly line. There were a lot of patterns that had this kind of squiggle line or a lightning bolt almost looking shape. And I knew I wanted to include that because it was kind of fun to draw. So I did the kind of squiggly version. And also a lot of these patterns have grids and dots kind of included in them. So I took my Tombow marker and just added some grids to some of these patterns, did circles in a grid shape kind of, and also added some dots randomly throughout, just kind of adding a little bit more to the empty space. And it's also something that does show up in some of the patterns that I found that I really liked. So yeah, this was such a fun theme, so easy to do because you're just drawing a bunch of shapes and coloring them in. So definitely an easy theme to replicate. And also for the lettering, I decided to keep it really simple because there's a lot of colors and a lot of shapes. There's kind of a lot going on with the actual pattern. So I wanted the lettering to be very simple and just stand out on its own. So that is the main title page done, and now we're moving on to my calendar spread, and this was definitely a spread where I was very inspired from Amanda Rach Lee. In a lot of the kind of patterns that I was seeing a lot of these grid designs, grid patterns kind of in addition to the different shapes. And I really liked the way Amanda incorporated the kind of grid style into the actual calendar, making the actual calendar this kind of grid looking design. So I did that as well as doing the different shapes and things I was using for the pattern as the kind of day where I was putting the day of the week. I just thought that was really cool. So definitely took some inspo there. And I just think the grid design being incorporated into the actual calendar looks really cool. It really brings the theme into the actual calendar, which I think is really quite cool, and definitely was inspired by Amanda for this. So I'm just alternating between the different colors and different shapes for the numbers of the days of the week, and that is the kind of main calendar. And then I just go in and write May and do the pattern kind of all around the edges of the calendar. I wanted to fill up the empty space with the pattern, and like I said, this is a super easy theme because you're basically just drawing a bunch of shapes over and over again and just coloring them in. So definitely a very easy theme to do, but was so fun, and I'm really happy with how this theme turned out. I definitely was excited to do this theme because it was 80s themed and the anticipation for Stranger Things and all of that, but this was definitely one that I was just kind of like, okay, yeah, sure, this is what I'll do. There's some months where I have themes where I'm so excited to do them, and I don't know if that's why, but sometimes the themes where I'm so excited, I end up being disappointed when I actually do them. And this was one of those themes where I really had no expectations. I was just kind of doing it. I was excited to do it, but it wasn't one that I was like, wow, this is so exciting. I can't wait to do this. It was just one that I decided to do, but I'm so happy with how it turned out. It's definitely one of my favorites I think that I've done this year. It's just really simple, really easy, but so fun and colorful. I think that's why I love it. I love all the colors and everything. So definitely a theme that I had pretty low expectations for, I guess, and it ended up being one of my favorites. So in that kind of empty space on the top left-hand side, I decided to bring Stranger Things a little bit more into the calendar spread. I decided to include a quote. I could have just done the pattern the whole way around, but I thought it would be fun to add a quote from the show and bring a little bit more Stranger Things into the theme, considering that was why I was doing an 80s theme in the first place. So the quote that I decided to go with is, "I'm going to my friends, I'm going home," which I'm 99.9% sure that is said by Eleven in season 2. I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure I know what scene that's from, so I'm thinking it's season 2, but I just really love this quote. I think it really kind of shows what the show is all about. I feel like friendship is such an important theme of the show and shows why these characters are doing what they're doing. They're doing it for their friends, and I just really love the quote. I think it sums up the show really well, and I'm really happy that I got to include a little bit of Stranger Things into the theme. And now we're moving on to my next spread, which is going to be my habit tracker spread. So again, wanted to bring that kind of grid pattern into the habit tracker. I thought kind of making the calendar for each habit look like a grid was the best way to bring that in. It kind of looks like a mini calendar from the page before. So I did 8 of those for each habit that I want to track. And this is definitely another time where I took some inspo from Amanda, and for the headers for the different habits, I used the kind of different shapes that I was using throughout these spreads. So I do like a squiggly line, a square, a circle, and a triangle for the actual header, and that is where I write which habit that calendar kind of correlates to. And for the different habits that I'm tracking, I'm keeping track of when I read, when I listen to an audiobook, when I post to YouTube or Instagram, when I do my skincare, when I wash my hair, when I use mouthwash, and when I floss. All very important things that I like to keep track of and make sure I'm doing frequently or every day, whatever it may be. And I just think a lot of these things are the things that I find the most useful to keep track of each month. And then when I'm done with the actual habit tracker, the functional things in this spread, I do go in and draw some more small shapes with the different colors. I didn't want to do the full pattern that I was doing on the other 2 spreads because I didn't want it to be too distracting from the actual habit trackers I'm kind of using. So I just did the small shapes and some of the black polka dots that I was kind of doing and left it at that because I wanted to fill up that empty space but didn't want it to be too busy. So that is what I did, and then that is my habit tracker spread done. And on the right side of this spread, I'm going to have my favorites page, my May favorites. So each month I like to keep track of all of the things that I was loving throughout the month, mainly the music, because I think that that's fun to see what months I was listening to what. But then I also have a section for kind of lifestyle, more random things. I'll write down any fun memories there or just anything that's not music that I was enjoying. And so I used, again, shapes for the different headers for the different boxes for these different sections, and then I also decided to do some different doodles. I drew a cassette as well as a record on this page just to add a little bit more of that 80s theme into these spreads that was more than just the actual pattern. I thought that that would be a cool addition. I know cassettes and records are still used today. I actually think cassettes have made a comeback. I feel like Urban Outfitters is selling them a lot now. I grew up listening to cassettes when I was younger, and I have a record player now, so they're definitely still around, but I know in the 80s they were definitely more popular, and so I thought that would be a fun addition to the spreads, and I also made them very colorful. They may not be the most accurate as to what records and cassettes look like, but I thought it would be fun to add some more color to the spread and to incorporate the colors from my theme in the drawings. So that is what I did, and I also did the kind of grid shape for the boxes for the different sections, and then that is my monthly favorite spread done. And now we're moving on to the final spread, which is my first weekly spread. And I didn't do a brain dump this month because I feel like I haven't really been using my brain dump pages that often. I don't know, I go through kind of phases with them, and the one that I had in April, I definitely have space on my brain dump page to use if I need it this month. So I decided to skip the brain dump. Now we're on to the weekly spread, and again, set up how I've been doing it the past few months. I just think that this is the perfect setup for me right now, just dividing the page into 8 different boxes, 7 for the days of the week, and then 1 for a little calendar, little overview of the month so I can kind of see it at a quick glance when I'm filling out my weekly spreads. I also highlight the week that weekly spread is from so I know where we are in the month, and that is my first weekly spread done, and that is what they all look like. But that's it. Those are all of my spreads for this month. So here's a flip through of what everything ended up looking like. I would love to know what theme you decided to go with for May, and also if you are just as excited about Stranger Things season 4 as I am. I'd love to know any theories you have for the show in the comments below. But that is going to be it for my May bullet journal setup. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one.